Well, we know Tennessee football recruiting's on a heater right now. Could this weekend bring an additional 2 more commitments? That and Alec Abeln got real on Thursday. All that and more. It's your Friday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Can't thank you enough for being here, making this your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. When we're done here, make Locked On SEC your second listen and watch here today. Got a big show coming up. Commitment announcements set forth for tonight, for tomorrow. Could Tennessee's class of 2025 and 2026 get even better this weekend? We'll discuss. Alec Abeln really chimed in on some tough times his first couple of months being an assistant coach for Tennessee and why you can appreciate that as a reporter. I'll get into more on that here in segment number 2. And then the baseball coaching staff has gone under kind of a makeover this week. I'll tell you who's going to be coaching with Tony Vitello next baseball season and who won't be, and why it's a great thing. That's coming up in segment number 3. You can watch us, listen to us, subscribe to us, all that and more, absolutely free here this football season, and wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on the YouTube channel by subscribing to Locked On Vols. Tell your friends. Let's continue to build this show, and couldn't do this show without our friends today over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more at FanDuel.com. All right, so we know that Tennessee's kind of on a heater right now. We've talked a lot of recruiting here the last couple of days, and how in the month of July, Tennessee has got 5 commits, 3 in the span of about 4 days earlier this week. The latest being Darian Smith, a 3-star defensive tackle. He committed on Tuesday. Of course, Faizon Brandon, he flipped from Oregon to Tennessee on Sunday. Shady Hayward committed to Tennessee on Saturday. The Saturday before that, it was Christian Gass. The Saturday before that, it was Travis Smith. And, lo and behold, you look at the class of 2025 rankings right now, and Tennessee's, it changes daily because, other teams get a commitment and, it kind of changes some things. And also, well, let me finish my thought there. Tennessee, I think, right at the time of this recording, is 8th in the country and 5th in the SEC. But another reason why you shouldn't really take recruiting rankings, specific rankings, to heart in terms of team rankings is because everybody builds their class a different way. If you are signing, a lot of players in a specific class, your ranking is going to be higher. If you are signing a couple slots fewer, like Tennessee's been doing the last couple of recruiting cycles because of self-imposed sanctions, your recruiting ranking it's not going to reflect those extra players, right? So say a class that's got 24 commits, they're likely to be a top 10 team if they're, majority of highly rated 4-star and a couple of 5-stars, right? Compared to a team that maybe has 20 or 21 that lacks a 4 or a 5-star. So, again, Tennessee's doing a really, really good job, but you get, in terms of the team rankings, national rankings, there's some jockeying there every single day because other teams around the country are continuing to add to their respective recruiting classes as well. But Tennessee's been on a really, really good heater. Again, chances to close this class are really, really strong. 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders, he's going to pick between Tennessee and Ohio State. Nebraska as well is in that conversation. That's coming up on August the 17th. Cornerback Onis Kanembani, he's going to commit to either Tennessee or Florida State, at some point in the early months of the fall, maybe even August. I don't think he has a date out there just yet. Josh Petty's in this conversation. Jaden Perlotti is no longer a flip candidate because he flipped to USC. You got Donnie Morris, the running back from Oakland. Tennessee's kind of in that conversation, but until he takes a visit to Tennessee, you can't really think that it's real. But, 2 guys, at least one guy for the class of 2025 that is set to make his commitment known tonight is going to be 4-star offensive tackle Juan Gaston. Juan Gaston has been, or offensive lineman really, Juan Gaston's been a target for Tennessee for quite some time. Originally, he was considered a tackle in this class, but, with his frame and his stature at 6'7", 360 pounds, a lot of teams, Tennessee included, like what he could project as an interior option at the guard position. But nonetheless, he is a massive, massive presence. 2025 class, 6'7", 360 pounds, from the Atlanta, Georgia area where he attends Westlake High School. He will make his commitment known at some point today here on a Friday. If you look at the On3 industry rankings, he is considered the 187th overall prospect in the class, so a top 200 player, 14th interior offensive lineman and the 24th commit or 24th recruit prospect, if you will, from the state of Georgia. And you know what we say here, of course, Georgia, Florida, Texas, California, Louisiana, all those states, very, very rich in terms of prospects and college football recruiting. So really, really talented player. According to the rankings, On3 specifically has him as the 234th overall prospect in the class. That is the lowest ranking for Juan Gaston. When you look at On3, 247 has him at 169, ESPN has him at 82nd, and Rivals.com has him at 221st. But any way you want to spin it, I mean, it's a really, really good player, and you can't teach 6'7", 360. You can teach how to use it, how to work with it, but you can't teach 6'7", 360. And that's what Juan Gaston brings. The thing about Juan Gaston is, and of course, I'm relying a lot of, my recruiting prowess on Matt Ray and Austin Price, because I'm not in the weeds with it anymore like I was a couple of years ago. But Juan Gaston kind of keeps to himself. He doesn't talk an awful lot. It's really hard to get a hold of him. He'll talk to you when he's doing visits on campus and everything, but one of those guys that wants to go through the process and kind of keep to himself, keep to his family, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's hard to kind of get a gauge on where he's leaning. Is this going to be Tennessee? Is this going to be the home state Georgia Bulldogs? Will this be Oregon? Those are the three teams in consideration. What we do know about Juan Gaston is, as I just mentioned, very family-oriented. It's like, what kid's not, right? But, very family-oriented. Family's a big deal for him. So, though Oregon is a serious player in this, it kind of makes me think that, is he really a kid from the Southeastern Conference, belt, footprint is the word I was looking for, from the state of Georgia, really want to go all the way across country to Oregon? I don't know. Georgia, of course, would make the most sense because it's right there. You hop in the car and go an hour to your east, and you're in Athens, Georgia. Tennessee is right there as well. I mean, you can do day trips to Knoxville from Atlanta in a short amount of time. So I think Tennessee and Georgia make the most sense. The front runner is most likely the Bulldogs right now. There's a lot of preview for commitments that we do that we know ahead of time, like, hey, this kid's in the class. Hey, this kid's in the class. This one's not one of those, and that's not to say that he's not going to be in the class. It's just this one truly is a IDK. We don't know at this point. So we'll see if he picks between Tennessee, Georgia, or Oregon. But Juan Gaston, a guy that Tennessee's been in on for quite some time, 6'7", 360 pounds, interior offensive lineman, class of 2025. He will make his announcement at some point today. Now, you look ahead to the class of 2026, and the number one overall player in the class of 2026, or the number one overall quarterback, is a quarterback from Grimsley High School, Greensboro, North Carolina, by the name of Faizon Brandon. Brandon is a guy that Tennessee jumped in on early. Got him to campus, took a couple unofficial visits, and you saw a lot of crystal balls rolling in, a lot of RPMs rolling in for Tennessee early on in this process. 6'3.5", about $195. He's camped. He's already, he's gotten ahead of the game, if you will. And he wants to make his announcement known between Tennessee, Alabama, or NC State. And he's going to make his announcement on Saturday. So this isn't a class of 2025 look. This is a class of 2026. But, Tennessee's sitting in a really, really good spot here. Tennessee has been for quite some time. I think Joey Halsley's done a great job in this recruitment. I think Josh Heupel's done a great job in this recruitment, appealing to them when they've been on campus for unofficial visits. Really, really nice job. And this is a really, really good player. You look at the On3 industry rankings, a 5-star, number 10 player in the entire country, the second quarterback and the second player from the state of North Carolina. On3 specifically has him at number 11. Number 11, first quarterback and first player from the state of North Carolina. 247 Sports actually has him as the number one overall player in the country. So 247 Sports has him ranked number 1. On3 has him ranked number 11. ESPN has him at 32, and Rivals.com has him at 134. Again, everybody does their updates throughout the year at different times. Rivals will have him way, way, way farther up when they do an update for sure. But, On3 right now has got him at 11. 247 has him at 1. On3 industry rankings at number 10. This is a really, really good player. And Tennessee's done a really, really nice job in this recruitment. Tennessee, NC State, Alabama. Entering the commitment announcement, I like where the Vols are, but we'll see if they can kind of finish the job. And you look at what Tennessee's already done, building quarterbacks for Josh Heupel. It's been one of those, hey, I'm going to get my quarterback early, and then I'm going to build around him. And look at 2022, it was he was just on the job, right? Hired in 2021, the class of 2022. He's already behind the 8-ball. You went ahead and tried to get Ty Simpson. That fell through. Immediately pivoted to Taven Jackson and got him to commit, early on in that cycle, all things considered. Taven Jackson, of course, no longer here. Nico was the priority for the class of 2023. He committed in March. Jake Merklinger, the priority at the quarterback position for 2024. He committed early on in early April. George McIntyre, the priority for 2025, he committed in the winter months of this past year. And then, of course, Faizon Brandon, if he were to pick the Volunteers, man, he is committing super early, earlier than all these guys, and that way you can build that class of 2026, from around Brandon, which is, again, considered one of the best players in the country in that cycle. So we will see if Faizon Brandon will commit to the University of Tennessee on Saturday. We'll see about Juan Gaston, if he will pick between Tennessee, Oregon, and Georgia on Friday. But no ifs, ands, buts about it. Tennessee football is on a roll right now and doing a good job. And you're not going to get them all, but Tennessee's getting more than not here lately. And that's a testament to Josh Heupel and his recruiting staff. All right, when we come back, Alec Abeln, he got real on Thursday. I'll explain why. That's coming up next. We continue on with a Friday edition of Locked On Vols. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships is what also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money is back. Because of the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep a ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so fall camp is rolling on. Practice number 2 is in the books. Friday is an off day. They'll be back out on the practice field on Saturday morning. There'll be media that follows that with an assistant coach and some players. They'll be back on the practice field Sunday morning. There won't be media following that. And then I believe they'll be on the practice field Monday with an off day on Tuesday. So first off day of fall camp coming up today. And it's been a good first 2 days of practice. 2 practices in the books. We've heard from well over 20 players already. We've heard from the coordinators, heard from Josh Heupel twice, and yesterday we heard from tight ends coach Alec Abeln. Now, I give a lot of praise to tight ends coach Alec Abeln a couple of days ago when he was able to get the flip from Gasson Brame, saying that, hey, he was a guy that was criticized pretty heavily, the first couple of months, first year or so after he was promoted to be an on-the-field coach and take over at tight ends, when former Tennessee offensive coordinator and tight ends coach Alex Golesh took the head job at USF. He swung and missed. He had a long-time tight end commit leave his class, right before signing day this past December, and we'll get into more on that here in a moment. He was getting criticized. I'm not going to say it wasn't undeserving, but so many times you want to let this thing play out. Now look kind of where you are, and that's kind of what he was reflecting on Thursday when the question was asked in this media appearance, how have you grown as a recruiter? And not only does he talk about how he's grown and evolved, but he takes you behind the curtain and he gets real. And I'll tell you why I really, really appreciate this here in a moment. But first, here's Alec Abeln on his path as a coach and when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that really gets anxious or stresses about much. But a year ago, especially the first couple months, it was something that, obviously you understand the importance of it. And truth be told, was sitting in church like early May and we have a prayer card, 21 days of prayer, and wrote down recruiting and had a little note typed up in my phone and just said, hey, God, put the right men in my room. However it looks, however it's supposed to be, I'm trusting you. I'm going to view recruiting from that lens of just give me the right men in my room. And 2 days later, kid commits to Georgia and cancels his OV, and the summer wasn't great. And, come December, whatever, 4th or 5th, things were looking pretty rough. And as I look around the room now, man, God answered that prayer for sure. I think for me, just having time with these guys to get to know guys, them to build rapport with us, and then also there have been great kids in this cycle that really just naturally connect with. Probably both. I think with anything, the more you do it, I'm going to work hard at whatever I do, and I don't think effort was anything to do with last year. I really, really don't. But as far as just the guys that got in my room in December and January, like looking around, even this spring, was like, holy cow. And you look at guys that we got coming on deck, like, have a chance to be really special.
Okay, so Alec Abeln literally says, hey, I went to church. We're doing prayer cards, 21 days of prayer. And I wrote down recruiting. And, we can all feel free to have different religious beliefs and all that. I'm not talking specifically about his, but what I am talking about, it's like so many times you just get up there and they're so robotic, okay? Coaches, coach talk. They're not going to tell you anything. Josh Heupel, good man. He is a good man. I like Josh Heupel. I think he's doing a great job. I think he's a good person. In front of the microphone, he is, and he takes pride in it. And it's kind of a game between he and the media. Like, he just doesn't give you a thing. Everybody the other day was like, oh, Lance Hurd, he's got that big brace on. Why didn't you ask him about Lance Hurd? Why didn't you ask him about Lance Hurd? Because he won't say anything. Literally, he will not say anything. So many coaches just won't give you anything. So when a coach gets real up there and gets away from the coach talk, when you're in my position, I appreciate the heck out of that. I really, really do. And I admire the heck out of that. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. He was talking like, hey, I'm sitting there and I'm playing golf and, all this type of stuff. And I don't think he said he was playing golf, but he was playing golf. And, he had that moment in church. And then 2 days later, a kid at the time that he was recruiting very, very hard commits to Georgia 2 days after that. If you don't remember, let me clue you in. That was Jaden Riddell. Jaden Riddell, a tight end, 6'4", 235, okay, from Missouri. He was considered by the On3 industry rankings to be the number 5 tight end in the class of 2024. He was as high as number 51 by ESPN, but we don't take those into consideration. He was as high as number 90 in the country, according to On3. So he's a top 100 player. Really, really good player. Alec Abeln loses him. He commits to Georgia. He takes off. He wipes clean his official visit to Tennessee, and that was kind of all she wrote. Okay? Well, you already had a tight end that was in the class for quite some time. His name was Jonathan Eccles. Jonathan Eccles committed to Tennessee on July the 4th. I want to say back in 2023 or 2022. Whatever the case is, he was a very, very early commit for that next class. Kind of like if Faizon Brandon commits to Tennessee tomorrow, kind of like what that would be a couple years ago. I get my dates mixed up. But nonetheless, Jonathan Eccles was in that class for quite some time. And leading up to December for the early signing day, just a couple months ago, about a week or two before early national signing day, Jonathan Eccles drops out of the class. Jonathan Eccles flips to not Georgia, not Alabama, not Florida, but USF. Oh, Alex Golesh. Alex Golesh got his guy, and give Alex Golesh credit. He's the one that recruited Jonathan Eccles to Tennessee, but he got Jonathan Eccles to go to USF. And it's one of those things to where it's like, of course Tennessee was going to take him. I wouldn't say that Tennessee was going to say, man, this guy was going to be the best ever SEC football player. You just don't know. But Tennessee certainly didn't process him like a lot of fans were trying to spin it. Tennessee certainly did not process him. Okay, so Tennessee has to pivot. Tennessee's got to find a tight end for the class of 2024. You've got to find a tight end. The night before National Signing Day, Tennessee picks up a commit from tight end Cole Harrison from California. And he comes in, and it's a late ad and all that, and very much a developmental player. Don't get me wrong, 6'6", 215 pounds. And, Alec Abeln was talking about him on Thursday as well and saying he's doing a really, really nice job. He's only been here, for a couple of weeks, really, and he's already coming in here, and he's picking things up quickly and all that. But he's a developmental player. That's what it is. But they had to pivot to him really, really quickly. And so he was saying, December, it wasn't great as well. But then the transfer portal season is here, and Tennessee makes tight end its number one priority. One weekend, it brings in Holden Stays from Notre Dame. It brings in Jordan Dingle from Kentucky. Holden Stays gets here maybe a couple hours before Jordan Dingle, maybe a day before, but they've got visits going on simultaneously, okay? Holden Stays ends up committing, and it was going to be the first one gets the spot, right? It was, we'll take you both, but we'll take either one of you, but we can't take you both. And so it was one of those like first come, first serve. Holden Stays comes in here, likes what he sees, commits on the spot, while Jordan Dingle of Kentucky is still on his official visit. And Tennessee says, all right, man, well, we're going to take this guy. He goes home, leaves during this visit, goes back, gets out of the portal, stays at Kentucky, and Mark Stoops wants to run his mouth about name, image, and likeness the next time he takes to the podium. Okay, well, why don't you look in your own closet before you try to point out some skeletons in other people's closets? Because trust me, buddy, there's skeletons everywhere. Anyway, so Tennessee gets Holden Stays. Okay, that's really, really good. Later in the cycle, Tennessee, in my opinion, gets kind of a throw-in. Not a throw-in because there's nobody coupled to that, but They bring in Miles Kitzelman, who didn't do an awful lot at Alabama, was very much a reserve, a depth piece at Alabama, but a guy that knows the league, has played in this league a little bit, and he comes in, commits to Tennessee. Okay, well, Tennessee gets 2 tight ends in this transfer portal class. Fast forward to spring, and these guys are coming along, and Miles Kitzelman might have been the most surprising player from spring practice, and you get to where Alex Abeln is on Thursday talking to the media, and we'll see when it actually happens. I mean, we truly don't know until the games are played, but we're going to see, can Tennessee truly play 3 tight ends? Can Tennessee play 3 tight ends in this system? They've always talked about it, but they've only played 2 the 3 years they've been here. They've been good players. McCowan Castles, Jacob Warren, Princeton Fan. They've only played 2, but they've always wanted to play more. So it's very new lookish. It's very inexperienced. But can Tennessee play Ethan Davis, Holden Stays, and Miles Kitzelman? We'll see this fall. But Alec Abeln is in a different place than where he was, this time a year ago, this time in December. You've got 3 guys that you feel good about your depth pieces. You feel good about where they are in terms of the tight end position now. You got a young guy that's learning, soaking up knowledge, getting bigger, getting stronger, and adapting to the system really, really well. You got Jack Van Dorseleer that has been a long time commit for the class of 2025. And oh yeah, you got another tight end of the class flipping from Oregon to Tennessee, and Gasson Brame, who they love from the get-go. It's been quite a couple of months of transition for Alec Abeln, and him getting up there at the media, at the podium, and kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit. I respect the heck out of that, because you got to show us who you really are. And again, so many coaches are just so robotic these days, and it's annoying. And quite frankly, a lot of times it's a waste of time, to be honest with you. But that was not a waste of time. I thought that was a really, really cool answer. So hats off to Alec Abeln for getting real, and ultimately, he's done a really, really nice job on the recruiting trail the last couple of months. Okay, so let's shift gears here to end a week's worth of Locked On Vols. Segment number 3 is coming up, and I'm going to tell you about Tennessee's baseball coaching staff, Tony Vitello. Who is going to be coaching alongside Tony Vitello this upcoming season, the national champions, reigning national champions? It's been a very much shifting coaching staff this week. I'll get you caught up on all that when we return right here on a Friday Locked On Vols. I want to say about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games. And the sports, they're not sporting like I want them to anymore. But over at FanDuel, it lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers. Not just new customers, not just existing customers, but all customers with a daily boost or a bonus. Every single day, you can get a boost or a bonus if you're a customer, if you're a member over at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long here in the month of August. So do me a favor, head on over to FanDuel.com or download the safe, the secure, the easy-to-use app. Start making the most out of the end of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel, so where you can make every moment more. And FanDuel, of course, it is America's #1 sports book. All right, welcome back into your Friday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here. Got a couple of minutes left here, and I wanted to sprinkle in a little baseball talk. Everybody's saying, well, what about the Tony Vitello contract? What about the Tony Vitello contract? It's one of those things where it just takes time. When talking with some people really, really quickly after the season, they were saying, hey, it's going to be quick. It's going to be quick. We're going to get this out there. We're gonna take care of Tony quickly and put this to bed, right, about a contract extension. And for the most part, like, some of the big factors in this negotiation have been done for quite some time. But there have been a couple of hiccups. Nothing that's gonna, in my opinion, nothing that is going to hinder getting this done, in my opinion. Tony Vitello is going to be your coach here next year for sure, and he's going to be a coach here for a long time. But just trying to finish off this contract and negotiations and stuff that are much more than just money. It's a lot of other things, in my opinion. But that will get done eventually. I would throw into the caution here that Jay Johnson's contract extension after he won the World Series wasn't announced until mid-fall this past year. You've got some other coaches around the SEC when they made it to the College World Series, when they won College World Series, Sully down in Florida. It took a while to get his done as well. So my point is these things take a little while, but it's going to get done, in my opinion, for sure. So I wouldn't worry about that. In the meantime, Tony Vitello has been out there recruiting like a bad man. He's been on MLB Draft Day coverage, talking about all of his players selected in the first 2 rounds of the Major League Baseball draft. He has been assembling his coaching. He's been on the boat with Peyton Manning. I mean, the dude's a superstar. Of course he is, right? I mean, he's a guy that just won the College World Series. He's young. The ladies love him. He's living life, and good for him, right? But he's also not only been owning the transfer portal, not only been recruiting and doing all that type of stuff, but he has been putting some checker pieces, playing chess a little bit, and trying to assemble his coaching staff for the upcoming season in 2025. Now, college baseball, for the longest time, you only had 2 paid full-time assistants. Prior to last baseball season, in I think it was October, the NCAA finally granted a 3rd full-time assistant for baseball and softball. That 3rd full-time assistant went to Richard Jackson of Tennessee baseball. Richard Jackson, a former Tennessee pitcher, turned volunteer assistant, turned to the 3rd full-time paid assistant last year. He went ahead and moved on to explore, business opportunities outside of coaching earlier this week. So what did Tony Vitello do to go and replace that spot? He went back and got an original member of his coaching staff, and Ross Kivett, coming back to the University of Tennessee to be the 3rd paid full-time assistant coach. Ross Kivett, meanwhile, was on Tony Vitello's original staff here at Tennessee. Coached at Tennessee, I want to say, for 4 seasons, 4 seasons. And he went to Houston the last couple of years to be that. I think he went to be that 2nd paid assistant, to go and make some money. I mean, right, guys? I mean, you got to make some money, pay the bills, put food on the table. And he went to Houston, did all that. He ascended all the way to associate head coach, and now he's coming back to be on Tony Vitello's staff. Ross Kivett is experience in coaching hitting, base running, infielders, recruiting. He does a little bit of everything. And I, as I go through all these names here, I think it's important to remember you bring him in here to do a lot of different things. You can only give a title to one person, but just because the one person's quote unquote the infielders coach or the hitting coach, I mean, everybody helps out with everything, right? I think that's important to remember. It's just about getting them in the door. But Ross Kivett is going to be your 3rd paid assistant coach. And if you're trying to think here, like, well, who's Ross Kivett? Why does that mean anything? Maybe I've heard of that name. Who is that guy? Well, if you remember in the College World Series back in 2021 when Tennessee was playing Texas and the guy went ballistic in the dugout, ballistic, through the clipboard, was shouting at the umpire, went out there, got ejected from the baseball game, that was your very own Ross Kivett. And after that, boy, he became endearing. He became a legend, and he became something of fan lore, for Tennessee. From there on out, people know his name now. People remember, and if you didn't know who he was prior to me explaining that story, just go find that video. It's something special. But Ross Kivett coming back to the University of Tennessee, that was made known earlier this week. You've got another move that I actually reported on over at VolQuest.com a couple of days ago. Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds is the former pitching coach this past year, 2024. He was the pitching coach for Cincinnati. So he was a Power 5 pitching coach at this level. And he comes to Tennessee to take a position on the support staff where he's going to help Frank Anderson with the pitchers. Richard Jackson was helping Frank Anderson with the pitchers as well, so kind of picking up some of that slack, and also doing some stuff in baseball operations where longtime assistant and really, really good guy Chad Zurcher left this past summer after winning the national championship. He went on to explore other opportunities with the university. So he's going to split his time between operations and pitching, that being Josh Reynolds. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, Tony Vitello, smart man, getting ready to have that next piece to put into the puzzle whenever Frank Anderson retires. Sure, you can look at it like that way, but I can tell you this hire was not made with the thought process of Frank Anderson retiring or anything. Frank Anderson is not retiring right now unless, he just comes in tomorrow and says he's retiring. He's not retiring right now, but he is in his mid-60s. He did just win a national championship. It would not be far-fetched to say Frank Anderson will retire soon. That would not be far-fetched. And if that does come tomorrow, or if that does happen a year from now or 2 years from now, you've got a guy on staff in Josh Reynolds who has done it at a very, very high level. He's been a former interim head coach. He's been a recruiting coordinator. He was an MLB draft pick. He's done a little bit of everything throughout his 20 years of coaching. And so having him on staff would be a really, really good option if that time were to come. So Josh Reynolds is coming to the University of Tennessee. You also have another former Vol that's coming back to the University of Tennessee, and Ricky Martinez. Ricky Martinez played at the University of Tennessee, was the starting shortstop back in 2019, helped turn things around for Tennessee, an NCAA regional team when they went to the Chapel Hill Regional. He was drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks, played a couple years, came back to Tennessee, was a student assistant, spent a couple years on staff here at Tennessee as a student assistant, and then, excuse me, he went prior to last year, again, after last year's run of the College World Series, he went and was that third full-time assistant coach at New Mexico State. Spent 1 year there. He's coming back to Tennessee, and he's going to have a spot on the support staff and be reunited with Tony Vitello. So you're bringing back Ricky Martinez. You're bringing back Ross Kivett. You're adding Josh Reynolds from Cincinnati. Kirby Cannell, it's already been reported that he's going to be doing something for this staff as well. Now, keep in mind, there's only 3 full-time assistant jobs, on the field jobs, if you will. But just like in football, just like in basketball, just like in baseball right here, this sport has so many guys behind the scenes that make this thing go, that work at this every single day, that just aren't the quote-unquote on-the-field coaches. Everybody talks about Coach Chop, Coach Chop, Coach Chop, Coach Chop. He is a support staff member for Tennessee football. That guy works, and that guy's critical to the staff, right? And so I think it's really, really important to see that a lot of these guys are making up the support staff, and there are big reasons why the University of Tennessee, won a national championship last year as well. Parker Serrano, student assistant, is going to come back for this season. Jeff Wood has been Tennessee baseball's trainer dating back pre-Tony Vitello. He's coming back. Adam Loeb is the assistant to Chad Zurcher and the director of baseball operations. He's going to be back in some capacity. Sean McCann has helped in the support staff and been with Tony Vitello for 7 years. Quentin Eberhardt has been Tennessee's strength coach, was hired by Tony Vitello when he got the job, left for the 2022 season to go coach for the Chicago Cubs, has come back the last 2 years. He's going to be with Tennessee next year. Luke Bonfield is also still going to be here and helping out. He's been with Vitello for a while and played for Vitello at Arkansas. Josh Heupel, meanwhile, of course, is the associate head coach. Frank Anderson is the pitching coach. Those are the 2 other on-the-field coaches. And just look at this loyalty. Frank Anderson's been, working with Tony Vitello for 7 years. Josh Heupel played for Tony Vitello at TCU, has been working with Tony Vitello for 7 years. Ross Kivett coming to Tennessee after working 4 years with Tony Vitello. Luke Bonfield has been with Tony Vitello for a while, played for him at Arkansas. Martinez, of course, played for Vitello here for a year, spent 3 years on staff. Now he's coming back. Quentin Eberhardt's been with Tony Vitello 6 of the 7 years he's had the job here. Sean McCann's been with Tony Vitello for 7 years. Josh Reynolds is the only one that doesn't have a connection to Tony Vitello, but he has a connection to Ross Kivett, having coached Kivett at Kansas State. It just goes on and on. It's loyalty. And that's what this program is built on. You hear Tony Vitello talk about loyalty all the time, and Tony Vitello rewards that loyalty. So everybody's saying, man, this staff is a super staff. It's a super staff, man. Well, let's think about this. Tony Vitello, eventually it will be announced that he's getting a new contract extension. And part of that contract extension, Tony is going to make it abundantly clear that he is going to take care of his guys, his assistant coaches, and his support staff guy, because he knows he can't do it by himself. And that's why I respect the heck out of Tony Vitello. All right, so a busy week for the University of Tennessee baseball-wise, assembling its coaching staff. Busy week for Tony Vitello. Busy week for Josh Heupel on the football team as fall camp continues on. Again, it's an off day here on Friday. They'll be back on the practice field on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll catch you up on everything you might have missed from over the weekend right here on Monday morning, Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Check out Locked On SEC as well. Make that your second listen. And tell a friend about this show. Let's continue to get the numbers up as we continue on in the football season. This is going to be your number one stop every single day to get all the news and notes on Tennessee football. I promise you that here this football season. All right, stay safe. Enjoy your weekend. This is Locked On Vols.